God has made the Igbo people to be the light of the entire world, and we must begin to shine. First of all, we must unite. We must know how many Igbos are there. We must know how many Igbos are out there. We must know our numbers, our right numbers. We must know this through census that is conducted by the Igbos. No more fraud in our census. We must know our numbers. We must count ourselves. We must know how many Igbos are there. How many Igbos are there in Imo State? How many Igbos are there in Delta? How many Igbos are there in Kogi? How many Igbos are there in Cross River State? How many Igbos are there in Benue? How many Igbos are there in Akwa Ibom, Ebonyi, Enugu, Anambra? How many Igbos are there? We must begin to count ourselves. We must begin to know how many Igbos we have. How many Igbos are there in Nigeria? How many Igbos are in all these African countries? Good evening, Igbo. Good evening, wonderful people. Good evening, friends of the UNIFY Igbos now. I welcome you today. It is still the 24th day of January 2024. I welcome you today again in this evening's broadcast. I still remain your own faithfully Chukwemeka, the UNIFY Igbos Now proponent. I thank you all for being part of us. I thank you all for the support. I thank you all for the evergreen support you all has been showing to us on this platform, the Namen TV and the movement, the UNIFY Igbos Now. This call is for the unification of Igbo. This movement is for a total unification of Igbo. The Igbos in the south, the Igbos in the north, central, the Igbos in everywhere, both the Igbos in the Caribbean, the Igbos in America, the Igbos in Africa, the Igbos everywhere they might be. I welcome you all. I thank you. I thank every person who has joined us. I mean, I can't thank you all enough for the support. I can't thank you all enough. So, this project is, this particular broadcast is to introduce our diaspora coordinators. We have our people. We have every person. We have our people all strategically positioned who are taking up this particular movement to the right stage, because we have left the starting point. It is gradually gathering momentum, reaching to its peak. And I thank you all for the belief you all have given to us right from the inception of this UNIFY Igbos Now. Thank you all. Okay, we have our brothers, we have our diasporan coordinators who will be coordinating from Europe, from Asia, from America, from Africa here. We have our brother, Mr. T, all the way in South Africa. All the way in South Africa. If you are within the South African region, please, you can call the number on WhatsApp. Please don't call with a hidden number, because I know they will not answer. Call with your number, introduce yourself, and carry on from there. This means that we are calling on every person. We are calling on more coordinators, because the UNIFY Igbos Now project is officially a movement. It's a movement of people who desire is to see a unified Igbo nation. We are interested in the Igbo national identity. The Igbo national identity, the Igbo man in IKA region, all the rest of our Nyoma region, the Delta North. We are calling on you all to wake up at this time. We are calling on you all to rise up at this time. Just like the famous music that goes like this. Ndibo tetano nora. Ndibo tetano nora. Ndibo tetano nora. This is not the time to be slumbering away. This is the time to rise up. To rise up to the responsibility of the Igbo identity. The identity crisis is done with. This is a new era where we shall all rise up to embrace our identity. No more identity crisis. No more the Igbo man in the Delta region regarding himself as Igbo and not Igbo. We all are one because we speak in one language, but in several dialectical forms. It is important that we know this. It is important that we begin to embrace this, our cultural heritage. It is important that we begin to count ourselves as a Ndibo na ase agocha nanne agona agocha nanne agona. We must begin to count ourselves. We must begin to know how many Igbos are there, because from what we have on ground, Igbos are the most, we are the most populated ethnic group in Nigeria. You can find Igbos in every single state in Nigeria in large numbers. You can find us in large numbers in every single state in Nigeria. You can find Igbos in large numbers in the African countries, starting from Benin Republic, Ghana, Togo, and all the rest. Burkina Faso, Senegal, Gambia, South Africa, Mozambique, Angola, Sudan. Every place, every country in Nigeria, you must find an Igbo man. You must find them in large numbers, contributing to the economic growth of that country, being law-abiding, being strategically improving the lives and the environment of that host country, or that host state, or that host community. This is what Igbos are known for. The end of the minority politics has come. This is the time that we must begin to embrace us. We must begin to embrace who we are. We must begin to embrace our identity. We must begin to cherish what we have, what God has created and deposited in us. God has made the Igbo people to be the light of the nations. God has made the Igbo people to be the light of the entire world. And we must begin to shine. First of all, we must unite. We must know how many Igbos are there. We must know how many Igbos are out there. We must know our numbers, our right numbers. We must know this through census that is conducted by the Igbos. No more fraud in our census. We must know our numbers. We must count ourselves. We must know how many Igbos are there. How many Igbos are there in Imo State? How many Igbos are there in Delta? How many Igbos are there in Kogi? How many Igbos are there in Cross River State? How many Igbos are there in Benue? How many Igbos are there in Akwa Ibom, Ebonyi, Enugu, Anambra? How many Igbos are there? We must begin to count ourselves. We must begin to know how many Igbos we have. How many Igbos are there in Nigeria? How many Igbos are in all these African countries? We must, and that is why we are raising these coordinators. If you are in Cotonou, please inbox me. If you are in Benin Republic, if you are in Ghana, Accra, if you are in any region in Ghana, inbox me now. We must begin to coordinate ourselves. We must begin to know how many Igbos are there in Ghana. How many Igbos are there in Ghana? These are important. These are for national, if you understand what is happening to the Igbo identity right now, you must know that this is the time for us to rise. So we must know how many Igbos are there in all the African countries. We must begin to know how many Igbos are there in South Africa. We already have the South African rep right now, Mr. T. I have posted his number, please. If you are in South Africa, please. If you have somebody in South Africa, copy that number and send to the person. Contact Mr. T. Tell him that you are calling for the Unify Igbos now. Yes, we must know how many we are. We must know our number, our numerical strength. We must begin to hold it dear. We must begin to build on our strength. What is our strength? Our strength is in our numbers. What is our strength? Our strength is in our ingenuity. We must begin to tap into this strengths, these qualities, our numbers. We must begin to know how many we are, so that we can harness our strength. We must know where we are powerful. We must begin to understand how powerful the Igbos are. We must begin to use the Igbo strength, the Igbo ingenuity, the Igbo power to change the world around us for the benefit of humanity. We must begin to know how many scientists are there in our villages. We must begin to understand these facts. We must begin to look into Igbo. My mantra remains Igbo first. My mantra remains Igbo first. Anything that you are doing, if you are not saying Igbo first, if you are not starting with Igbo first, then nothing for you. Nothing. Because you are still in the past. You are still in the past. This is the current. This is the future. The future says Igbo first. The future says that we must hold ourselves there. The future says that Igbos must love themselves. The future says that the Igbos must stop killing each other. The future says that Igbos must begin to value each other. The future says that Igbo must value the Igbo life. When Igbo values the Igbo life, then our neighbors and every person must begin to value the Igbo life. Yes, we must begin to remember, begin to tell ourselves that one Igbo life is worth more than anything you can think of. So we must begin to protect the Igbo lives. Enough of the killings, enough of the death of the Igbos. We need our numbers, and we must begin to protect ourselves. We must begin to protect our identity jealously. We must begin to guide it jealously. Enough of the Igbo castigations. Enough of the Igbo man castigating the Igbo man. No. We must begin to revive our umunna. In every section of the Igbos, we must begin to come home and revive our umunnas. We must begin to take our matters to the umunna for deliberations. If you are having any problem with an Igbo man, go to your umunna. Go to the umunna. Settle it there. This is the time. This is the time for that wholesome Igbo renaissance. That identity. We must begin to hold dear our identity. Yes, we must know. We must know how many Igbos are there. We must know how many Igbos are out there. We must know how many Igbos are in Cotonou, that is Benin Republic. We must know how many Igbos are in each of these states. How many Igbos are in Delta? The Delta North, how many? What is the population? We must begin to count. We must begin to count. We must introduce our own census. Our brothers in America, we must know how many Igbos are there. So if you are in America and you are watching this broadcast, please raise your inbox me so that we can begin to introduce you as the coordinator, so that you can coordinate the Igbos that will be reporting to you. We must begin to set up these cells. We must begin to set up these groups. We must begin to have these groups in each of every state in Nigeria, in each of every country in Africa where Igbos are domiciled in Europe, the same thing. In Asia, the same thing. In America, the same thing. In the rest of the Caribbeans, the same thing. We must know how many Igbos. If you are talking about the rivers, how many Igbos are there in the rivers? How many? What is the number of the IKWERE people? What is the number of the OWERE people? What is the number of the IKWERE people? We must begin to count ourselves. We must know how many Igbos are there, because we are sure that Igbos are the largest ethnic group in Nigeria and one of the largest in Africa. This is very, very okay. Ivory Coast, I can see you. Ivory Coast, very well. Please inbox me your number so that we can begin to. I will join you with the rest of the proponents, with the rest of the coordinators who are in Europe. We have our brother Okechukwu who is in Germany. If you are in Germany, please copy that number and write to our brother Okechukwu. We must begin to raise men. We must begin to raise our coordinators. The Unify Igbos now is officially a movement. Is officially a movement right now. And it is going places. Lolo Medo Jiegu Ojugo. What is the essence of diaspora coordinators? That is your question. Let this not denigrate to no. You are not following up. So sorry for that understanding, but I think you should have written me before coming on live to say this. We know we have personal relationship, but then I will, since you have asked this publicly, I will explain. This is a movement, and we must begin to organize ourselves. We must begin to organize ourselves in wherever we are to coordinate in Igbo. If we are doing it right here on ground, despite all the risk, how much more the diasporan brothers, how much more the diasporan sisters? I don't know, you are in diaspora. How are we coordinating ourselves? How are coordinating ourselves, the Unify Igbos now? How are you coordinating? How are you coordinating our brothers in our IKWERE brothers who are in US, our IKWERE brothers who are in South Africa, our IKWERE brothers or our OWERE brothers, our every Igbo, in fact, our IKA brothers and Okwani brothers. How are you bringing this message to them? Are you preaching? Are they hearing it? Are they following up? If we are going place to place, trying to convince, trying to preach peace, trying to preach unity to our brothers on ground here, how much more the people who are in diaspora? We must bring them, because diaspora is the strength. Yes, because of there is more facilities there. They can, their message, their voices can be heard loud and clear than we are here. We have our proponents here. We have the tribes Chimenuma Madi all the way from Emoha. That is very, very important. We have our brother Henry Ube all the way from Onichokwani in Ndokwa. In Okwani local government area. We have our brother Onyewe Maduka Inebi all the way from IKA. So how much more our people, all those people, the IKA brothers, the IKA diasporans, the NGWA diasporans, the Okwani diasporans, who is going to coordinate them? That is why it is important for this coordination. It is coordination. Coordinate. We must coordinate our activities. This has nothing to do. It is obvious that the Unified Igbos now is not a separatist movement. It is not by any chance a movement for the separate Igbo state. No, it is rather for cultural assimilation, for cultural recognitions. The people that speaks one language, the people that speaks one language, the people that speaks one language, the people that when they want to call God, they call Chukwu. The people that trace in that sacred market, 4 market days, IKWERE for Anunkwo. These are the people that we are calling. These are the people. So it is important that we have strong diasporan brothers. It is important. It is very, very important. So I am trying to answer my dear sister. My dear sister, I'm trying to answer you. I hope you respond back to me. Lolo Omada Ojugo. I am responding to you why we need these diasporan coordinators. It is important. I've had a lot of diasporan brothers calling me. So who now, I cannot coordinate from here. Nobody can coordinate the diasporans from here. In as much as we are doing this from here, yet we need our diasporan brothers. So it is a movement. It is of an official movement. So that is very, very important. My brother Okechukwu, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. I don't know if you have chance, please, you can join. If you can join me live here so that we can talk, we can discuss, we can enlighten our people. People in diaspora are not excluded from the struggle. This is for all Umu Alibu. Very good. Thank you, brother, for that contribution. Thank you, brother, for that contribution. Yes. Very well, very well. Thank you all. Thank you for joining this live. Thank you all for joining this live. It is the Unified Igbos now, and we are moving ahead. We are moving ahead with the unification of Igbo. Please, brother, send me a request. Okay, Oba Ikechukwu has said something. Let me read it out. Coordinating Igbos has nothing to do with freedom movements. But why are you seeing IPOB in that way? IPOB who are fighting for your survival. Well, this is the Unified Igbos now. We are talking about the Igbo people in Nigeria. We are talking about a unified Igbo people in Nigeria. A unified Igbo people in Nigeria, people that speaks one language. Yes, I can hit my chest and say the Igbo people The Igbo people you find in the Delta, in rivers, in Kogi, in Benue, in Cross River, Akwa Ibom, they all are speaking one language, just in different dialects. So it is important that we unify ourselves. We must know. Then let me tell you again. Lolo Ojugo, why we need these coordinators is we must develop a way to know the Igbo numbers. We need to know how many Igbos are there. How many Igbos are alive today? How many Igbos are living? How many Igbos are in America? Who knows? Who can tell me? If you can tell me how many Igbos are there in America, then I'm satisfied. Tell me how many Igbos are there in South Africa. Tell me how many Igbos. This is the time that we begin to know how many Igbos are there in South Africa. And again, it is an opportunity to begin to tell ourselves the truth, to know how many Igbos are locked up in different prisons in the whole world. We must begin to know this. This is a new renaissance. This is the Igbo renaissance, the true Igbo renaissance, the true Igbo identity renaissance. It is very, very important. It is very, very important. I thank you. I thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Please share this. Yes, Agaba Idu. We are millions in America now. How many millions? We need to know how many millions are there in America. Nobody knows. You will just tell me millions. How many millions? How many people are there in Ghana? How many Igbo people are there in Ghana? I want to know these things. It is very, very important. This live broadcast is meant to educate us and let us interact. At what point are we going to know how many Igbos are there in Germany? We know that there are a lot of diasporan, Igbo diasporans. How many are they? The UNIFY Igbos now is complex. It is not just about uniting in the Igbo and bringing them to festivals and celebrating Iriji together. No, it is for Igbo consciousness. We must, that identity consciousness, that national identity consciousness, it should be imbibed. This is what the UNIFY Igbos now is bringing to the table. It is not a rocket science. It is not going to be a magic. It is something that we must be working towards. Okay, Mighty, please. I'm sending you an invite. You are very, very important. You have been working here. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Agabi do. Texas alone have more than 1 million. See, very good. I love it that you are saying that Texas alone has more than 1 million Igbos there. How many? We want to be specific. We want to have our own census. We will develop our own census. How are we going to have our own census? Is to have coordinators everywhere in Europe, everywhere in America, everywhere. We will have these coordinators.